if you are in recovery and you're completely sober, great job.
Yeah.
If you're in recovery and you still smoke weed, great job.
Also, great job.
If you used to do heroin and now you don't, and maybe you still drink, great job.
Still a great job.
If you're doing heroin and you found a way to do less and you feel like you're making progress, great job.
But maybe stop to maybe look into
Not doing heroin, obviously. Yeah, but that's
Welcome y'all to the podcast out there. I'm your host, Danny B, and thank you for tuning into the Conference Call podcast. If you have not rated and reviewed the show on your podcast platforms, please go do so right now. A 5-star rating and a review would help both these podcasts very much so. And on the show today, I have a very, very, very special guest, and it's not even a guest. It's someone that I was actually thinking really a lot about last night, no homo, but I'm like, how did I stay friends with this guy after all the years and all the people that we know collectively? We still ended up talking. Welcome to the show from the Mind of Dick podcast, Richard Guyton. I love you, bud. I fucking love you, dude.
I love you too, bro. I really do. That means a lot, man. It really does. That intro means a lot. You're someone who's been really important to me in my life too. Just, you've been a good friend. I want to say it was like 10 years ago I did your podcast, and you're still doing it, man. You're still killing it. So I appreciate that intro, man. Thank you.
Very much deserved, dude. From everything that I've known from you, everything that I've seen from you growing up, from having kids, from doing backyard fucking punk shows, to playing in my high school fucking talent show just at a freestyle, which I want to talk about later.
Yeah, of course.
And just the trial and tribulations of life, man. You've come out of it so like on a positive scale, dude, that most people would just honestly just kind of, from where we grew up in the AV, I feel like a lot of people like place themselves in the victim there very easily. You like took yourself out of that mold and thrived. So I appreciate you, bud. And I would like to talk about a little bit of that, a little bit of music, and a little of this and that.
Yeah, dude, I'm an open book, dude. Just, anything you want to know. I mean, growing up in the AV, there really wasn't much else to do but, drink, do drugs, party, or farm. And, none of us were farmers. So, we picked up guitars and drank some beers and played some music. So, that was the AV. And a lot of people, like you said, they didn't pull themselves out of it and lost a few friends because they just kept the party going. I was lucky enough to have a good support system to get me out of all that. But, life is great right now. I mean, super positive. I mean, everything in my life, I'm super optimistic about life right now.
That's awesome, man. That's fucking awesome. Is it true? I don't know if you know this, in Lake LA where we grew up, is it true that the lake out there was taken out because the taxpayers didn't want to pay like a few cents more like each month? Yeah. Really?
That's what I heard. Yeah, I heard back then because I moved out there in like 84, and that's what I heard because there was no lake when I moved there. It was just a lake bed, and I heard that they didn't want to pay the extra tax on it, so it was only a few. I want to say it was as little as a few bucks a year. It was a few cents a month, and they just voted it down, and they decided, hey, we're not going to fill this anymore. So it's ridiculous.
Dude, would we have grown up in the suburbs if that would have stayed out there?
It would have been different. Probably would have been a lot more like tourists, maybe more businesses out there. But
we probably wouldn't have moved out there. Honestly, we probably couldn't afford it.
Probably not. I know. So it's kind of weird because I want to say my mom's grandfather, so my great grandfather, he lived in Pear Blossom. I want to say in like the 60s, and like my grandpa used to tell me stories about going to like Mr. B's and like going, water skiing on the lake way out there in the desert. And I ended up moving out there later. It's weird, but I guess it was a big tourist attraction. There wasn't a lot of people living out there, but a lot of people were coming to this lake in the middle of the desert. So it would have been like that for us and probably a lot more people.
It's crazy seeing Mr. B's transformed into so many different restaurants. I honestly don't go out to Lake LA, and from people that have listened to this podcast and a lot of people that kind of know me personally, I just don't want to really deal with the AV as much as possible since moving to Palm Springs and then moving to the Central Coast. It's like, you know what? I have this philosophy, just don't retract. Just keep keep pushing forward. And as much as I have a lot of great memories out there, I haven't gotten over that hump of seeing that one person that can just take that all away, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And nothing wrong to the people that, you know, we know that still live out there, because there's still a lot of great people that live out there. They have a lot of families, and I envy that. I honestly do envy people that have a close niche family. I don't have that, which is fine with me. It helped like grow my personality, you know, in a really tough world.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
But no, man. I don't really go mess with that stuff out there. I don't mess with a lot of AV people anymore. I guess the only time I do talk to people now is unfortunately when there's like either a really happy event or a really sad event. And it sucks. Like the last time I talked to a lot of our friends were during like a memorial, and I won't say who it was.
Right.
And then, thank you very much, babe. And then I'm actually going to go and meet a whole bunch of people for a celebration of life. So it's interesting. I kind of like that feel. And I've been talking to more people through like text messaging and calling people. And I took like social media off just so I can implement that more in my life. And man, it makes me feel so much better. And having this conversation makes me feel like I have someone on, you know, I have another portal of someone to talk to, you know, it's someone, and it's weird because we've been friends forever, you know, and we talk through social media, we talk through, you know, text and stuff like that. We've kept that relationship going, but just having one-on-one conversations, this makes me feel like, man, I have this friendship with this guy. It's like, it makes it feel even, I mean, I don't know, I feel like a broken record right now, because I don't know how to explain it. You know,
well, I get it. It's like having conversations is kind of dead now. Like people don't really talk to each other anymore. It's usually through social media or just, like you said, even just text conversations. People don't actually have face-to-face conversations, and that needs to come back because it's really important. You got to keep people in your life that mean a lot to you, you know, and having just a face-to-face conversation or even just over the phone. How you doing, bud? How's life? You know, like I try to do that more with my friends that are still there. You know, they're still important to me. I talk to Johnny every once in a while. I call people, you know, like, hey, how you doing? And it's good to have. You got to have that actual hear the person's voice instead of just the text. You know, you can't really feel the emotion or how that person's actually feeling through a text. So I like having like personal conversations like this. It's great.
Now, do you think that women feel the same way? Because I was talking to my fiance about this. I go, you know what? All it takes is a little compliment that a woman can give to a man, and it just sets them on a different planet. Like they just got a $5 raise, you know?
Oh, dude, hell yeah.
So
hell yeah.
do women feel that?
Like that?
Do women feel the same way about that? Like, do they yearn like kind of the same simplicity, or it's just, I don't know, man. Because you and I feel the same way. I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're kind of this, you know, alike and we're friends. But I kind of feel that men feel the same way too. You know, even like at work, I go to like, you know, an older, more seniority, you know, type-esque individuals. Man, you did a fucking bang up job, you know, blah, blah, blah. Chingon, because I work with a lot of Hispanics, and it means badass. Yeah. And they're just like, man, that's fucking, makes it feel so good. Puff their chest out, come around more, start talking. I don't know. Simplicity. Is it so far off to have little things like that to build humanity back up?
I don't think so. And I think with one thing I've noticed with men is we love compliments about like what we do. If we do something, like we build something, or at work, like you said, if you give a guy a compliment on the work they're doing, that's the kind of stuff that we love. Women more, you know, on their looks or their hair or stuff like that. I'm not saying they're shallow. It's just like that. They want to feel pretty. They want to feel loved. Men want to feel accomplished. We want to feel like we've done something. And that's one of the reasons I try to work so hard, because if I'm not working hard, I don't feel like I'm a person. I feel like I hurt my back and I was almost out of work for a year, and I felt like a piece of shit. I felt like I was nobody. And once I got back into where I could actually work again, all I did was go hard on it. And that's all I've been doing for the last few years, is just going hard on work, because I feel like I'm somebody when I'm working. And that's the kind of compliment I want, is like, hey, you did a great job there. You know, I don't mind being like my girl saying, "Damn, you're handsome." Like I love that too, but like I want to feel like accomplished. I want to feel like I kicked ass on something. You know,
So
and it has like even with music, like if somebody says like, "Hey, that song sounds great," or you know, it's like I accomplished something. I feel fucking great. You know, stuff like that. Like that's the kind of compliments I feel like men need.
is it us getting to that point of like accepting we need to prove it to ourselves first before we can accept any type of acknowledgement later?
I think, I think so. I think so. I think. Well, I also think you got to like work on yourself before you're working on like anything else. Like if you're able to work on yourself and feel better about yourself, you can accomplish anything. So it's something I've really tried to work on over the last 5 or 6 years is just working on myself. And now I feel like I can take on the world, you know?
That's so crazy, man. That's so crazy to hear it in that perspective because taking social media off, I feel great. I'm pretty much cigarette and alcohol free. Alcohol wasn't an issue. Cigarettes was a big issue. I'm pretty much done with
Mhm.
those. I'm
Mhm.
starting to get back into a little bit of fitness here and there. I feel great, man. I feel like I want to
Yeah.
jump right back into like podcasting. Like I could not take a month off from podcasting. I had all the equipment. I passed by the studio. I'm like, this is just wasting. And I feel like every time I stop doing something, like I need to take a break from this. And then when I stop for 3 days, I go, I'm a piece of shit for not doing this, especially when it's something that I like doing, like good,
Yeah.
music, podcasting, whatnot. Even if it's just something getting off my chest, I I picked it up one day, put my guitar on, and I started talking and playing at the same time. And I go, dude, I haven't done this since high school, and it's the hardest fucking thing I've done in so long. But after I was done, I must have did it for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, just ranting about some shit that I'm gonna air out later. And I go, wow. After I was done, I told my wife, this was the like one of my biggest accomplishments I've ever done in like 20 years. Just getting back to something I used to do so effortlessly.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. It's so weird, like how our priorities shift so much growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to, when we're, I don't know how to put it, like when we're growing up, like when we're kids, we want to play music. We want to do all these other things. And then we start realizing, hey, we gotta grow up and be adults. And a lot of times the fun stuff goes, goes away. Like with me, I started having kids and it was like, okay, I can't really do this anymore. I can't be in the band. I tried to keep it going. You know, I had kids young and it was like music kind of had to go away. And then I started accomplishing things in life. I started getting better. I got sober. And then the first thing I thought of was, fuck, I got to get into music again. You know, now that I got a good job, I got everything accomplished that an adult should be accomplishing. Like I'm going to go back to doing the fun stuff. And I think that's important for us to go back to the stuff we love and we loved as kids, go back to like playing music or something we're passionate about. Like with you've been podcasting for a long time and I'm just getting into it and I want to do it more and I want to get these hobbies out. I want to do these things because this is the stuff that made us feel good when we were younger. And this is the stuff that makes us still feel good, you know? So it's important to do those things. And this year I'm going hard on that shit. And you should too. You should start playing more music. You should start just go hard on the podcasting. You just do it all. Cause it's stuff we love. It's stuff that keeps us grounded. It's stuff that keeps us sane, you know, stuff we love.
It's funny you bring up music, dude, because I just, god damn it, this coffee's so good. I was just talking to Eduardo recently, and he was talking to me about music, and I've been wanting to do this one and done album so much, and talking to you and talking to him, he's like, dude, just do it. It's just make it so
Yeah.
simple. He's like, just you don't have to do anything complex. He's like, remember how easy we used to do it back in the day? He's like, when we started listening to other great musicians that are putting out these bangers that just infatuate our earlobes, he's like, we started putting ourselves on that same level, like we needed to, bust something out to impress them. And
Yeah.
I remember writing like a fucking maybe one or two songs a day, like within a snap of a finger, dude. And now
Yeah.
I can't do
Exactly.
it. It takes me months to get a verse and a chorus together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You know what? So here's the thing. What I did was instead of trying to write a bunch of songs, which I do have some in the chamber, like original songs, but I said, you know what will make this easier for me is go back to what I already know and like redo the songs I already know.
oh,
And
I
that's
love
will
you.
spark it.
I love you
You
so
know, that will
much.
spark it.
I,
So I might fucking do that, you know?
That's exactly what I was
Definitely.
thinking of doing. I'm like, man, should I just go back, redo these expect no less, this
Hmm.
malignant shit, this other shit I used to do with
Hmm.
this and just but should I do that again? But then I was like, you know what? I really want to do an album collectively with like 10 songs with all different types of artists and different music of all my friends. And then just
Yeah.
call it the one
Yeah.
and done, something I can be proud of and just like it's nothing. If it doesn't, get heard by 100 people or gets heard by millions, it doesn't matter to me. I was just like this. I did this with my friends that made me
Yeah. Yeah.
who I was in this or grew my music catalog in such a
Yeah.
vast way. I think that would be so much fun, dude. And when you came out with the track, if you don't know, you can, find it on SoundCloud. When you redid that track and put it out, because I follow you on there and gives me notifications anytime that pops up. So I saw it and I'm like, oh, fuck. And I saw it on the way home. I'm like, hell yes. And it just inspired me, dude. And it just takes
Yeah.
one little thing to inspire somebody. And it may take, people always say that, these 18-year-old kids need to go straight to college and learn what they want to do for a living right then and there. They might not get that itch for they might have to go through a workforce of fucking hell and beyond before they get that itch. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. It's
Yeah.
weird, dude. And we're building a society of failure and debt. I'm sorry, we're like going off on all this shit right now. And,
That's okay.
but,
I
uh,
agree with you.
but, let's kind of get through all that. When it comes down to, if you don't mind, about your sobriety, because I'm trying to go through it right
No.
now, and to be quite honest, cannabis has been the biggest issue for me. Just because I use the excuse of having nightmares and like really horrible family dreams that make me wake up with anxiety, sometimes in tears. But I've noticed that my breathing has been terrible and my my lungs are shit. So I'm trying to wean it out. How hard was it for you to kind of get through that threshold of like excuses to kind of go back and cope with it?
I every excuse in the book I came up with to not like, oh, my wife left me, my dad passed, I lost my job. Every excuse just kept me drinking to the point where I just lost everything. I lost everything in my life, and there was no real like reason for it except for that I was just all I cared about was drinking. Um, and I had to come to the conclusion that it was either up or down. It was either I kill myself with alcohol or I fix my life. And because I had literally lost everything, I was sitting in an empty apartment with nobody. I was in Utah at the time, and my kids had moved. My June, my oldest, lived with me, and then she moved out and sent me this book with a text message saying that she wanted nothing to do with me. I was dead to her, and this is my angel, right? This is my firstborn angel who's been there for me, you know, forever. Just always been there for me. She was done with me, and I was sitting there crying in an empty apartment with a Captain Morgan and Coke in my hand, going like, "What the fuck am I doing?" And I decided that it was either up or down. I either just drown myself in alcohol or I fucking cut this shit out and fix my life. And I went and poured the rest of the bottle out and I said, I'm fucking done. This was after basically a 3-day bender of missing work and just being constantly drunk or asleep, throwing up. And, I was like, fuck all this shit. Like, I've lost everything. This has never done anything good for me. This has never done, I'm sick all the time. I'm tired all the time. I've lost everything. The fuck am I doing? 25 years of just drinking, because it never really stopped, it never really stopped. So I just said, fuck it, dude, I'm done. And I literally just said, I'm done. I poured it out and I said, okay. I slept for a while and I was sick for like a week. I did go back to the liquor store because in Utah there's like state liquor stores. So I went to the state liquor store, bought myself a cheapest bottle of fucking spice rum I could find. I think it was like $8. And it was like Barbarossa or some rock gut shit. And I said, I'm gonna fucking drink this. And I said, fuck this, I'm done being sober. It was maybe 5 days I hadn't drank. And I had the shakes and I was just feeling sick. I was throwing up. And I said, fuck this, I'm gonna get a drink. And I poured myself a glass and looked at it, smelled it, and put it in the fucking sink, and then put the fucking bottle into the sink, like into the garbage disposal. I said, "Fuck this, I'm done." And that was it. That was the last time I bought alcohol for myself, and I'd never touched a drink since. And best thing I ever fucking did in my life, because I was losing everything. Everything was gone, and ever since then, my life's been fucking amazing. It was rough. The hardest part of being sober is sitting with your feelings and not going anywhere with them. You have to sit with them. You have to feel them. I used to feel happy, I'd get a drink. I used to feel depressed, I'd get a drink. Now you got to sit with those feelings. When you're sad, when you're depressed, when you're down, anything, you have to sit with those feelings. That's been the hardest fucking part of being sober, is you have to actually feel. You know, it's hard. It's really hard.
And this is, and these are the same feelings that you're still dealing with even after you talk to people that are in your support system, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like you, they never go away. You know, you always have these insecurities and these things that you're not happy about with yourself or what you're doing in your life, and things that happened in your past. And I went through a lot of shit in my past, and it's always there. And when you're drinking, it's kind of like you don't really, you drown it. You don't think about it as much. It's there and then it's gone. You know, all you're thinking about is getting that drink and feeling good.
That's so interesting, dude.
You got to fucking think about it. You know, you got to feel it.
Because when I used to do mushrooms, I haven't done psychedelics in a while, and there was one year about 3 or 4 years ago, I went on a streak of like, how much can I take off this drug list, off the Schedule 1 list?
Yeah.
I had, just moved to Palm Springs. I was single, living in a house full of all these other single guys. That's where I developed my drinking habit, my cigarette habit. But at the time we were in Palm Springs, and we had access to all these kind of lucrative, crazy psychedelics. And I would always chalk up mushrooms as, you know what? You can never think about something negative. Just in me personally, just how I had my experience with it, like in that state of euphoria, I was never thinking about anything negative. There was no thought that can enter my mind or be projected anywhere that was negative at the time. And right. I think that's what some addicts can't get past. They're like, but this makes me feel so good. It just takes everything away. And here it is. This is where the excuses start coming into play, and you put them in the pros and cons, and your cons become your pros, and opposites, and you just get so fucked up on what's good and not good anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're trying to hide the feeling. That's the main thing. You're trying to hide those negative feelings, so you just feel good all the time. And we want, as humans, we want that dopamine, right? We want to feel good all the time, and sometimes as addicts, we don't know how else to do it. So it's drugs, it's alcohol, because at that moment we feel great, and all the other shit goes away.
So besides making that pivotal decision and then going 5 days later and kind of justifying that good decision you made, what other steps did you make? Obviously years later, you're still sober. What have you been doing constantly that keeps that urge, that potential urge from entering your head again?
Just thinking about that dark place, to be honest, like thinking about where I was at that last final moment when I made the decision, just thinking about where I was then, and never wanting to go back to that place. And to be honest, I've had a really good support system, and family and friends. I met my girlfriend that I'm with now, future wifey. I met her probably a month. Well, I'd known her while I was still drinking, but we became pretty good friends probably, a month after I got sober. So she's been there through the whole thing, and just not wanting to disappoint her and not wanting to disappoint people. I think that was the biggest thing. Just if I went back to it, I would disappoint so many people. And that text that June sent me, that's the main thing that got me the most. Like it just made me feel so horrible as a person. I just never want to go back to that. Man, I never want to feel that again.
Kids can fucking hit that button, man. That can just shatter you, man, in an instant. There's nothing that an ex-wife or ex-girlfriend, ex-man, nothing that they can do can even surmount to what a child can do in 1 second. It's so crazy. My daughter, she can just tell me like, I hate you. And I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That the kids really have that effect. And my kids have always, had that effect on me. And, my younger daughters know that I used to drink. They don't remember it, but they know that I'm sober, and they know, hey, dad's not allowed to have alcohol, because their mom, still has a drink here and there. And they'll be like, you're getting Coke, Dad. It's like, I know. But they know that I'm sober. They know I don't drink. They've grown up around alcohol their whole lives. They know what it is. They know that I don't drink. And that's all they remember. Luckily, I mean, they don't really remember me drinking. So I really didn't do it around them as much. When I would see them, we had a kind of a schedule where I would see them, and then, their mom would have them half the week. And then when I had them, I wouldn't drink as much. I would have a couple drinks just to take the edge off. But when they weren't there, I was getting blackout. So they don't really remember it. They don't remember seeing it.
Right.
But they know, but my son, who's 22, and my daughter, who's about to be 26, they saw it at its worst. My son was staying with me for a little bit. He saw it really bad. And he told me, you're kind of fucked up, Dad. Like, you're pretty messed up. And that text that June sent that was it. That's why I don't go back, because I have all them to disappoint, and I don't want to disappoint anybody, especially myself. But I would have so many people that would be disappointed, and after a while, it just became where, hey, I'm just sober. It took a good 3 years.
Congratulations, dude.
Yeah, it's biggest accomplishment I've ever had in my life. I think is being able to kick that shit, because it got bad for like 5 years. It was really bad. I was pickling myself,
Isn't it
horrible?
Isn't it crazy? Our parents come from a generation or we come from a generation where we would never tell our parents like we hate them unless we were expecting in some cases like a fucking fight or getting kicked out of the house. But then like our parents would never express any of these feelings to anything. It's like, you got to chalk it up, do your job, and handle the business, so. Yeah,
exactly.
What did we take from our parents that made us, that we thought that was like, hey, this is good. We're going to be good parents based off these, do's and don'ts. I feel like our generation grew, raised kids a little bit more sensitivity, but I think that's kind of like with social media, that's what's kind of made it effortlessly to do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if this was your experience, but with my experience, it was like, my dad was like, you do this or else, and I'm gonna beat your ass. Like, I was scared of my dad. And with my kids, I try to show them that, hey, they're scared of me, but I give them that, but I give them also like a lot of love. My dad didn't really ever say I love you, or he was always like, with his sons, he was always the macho guy, right? But with me, I'm always like, I tell my kids every day that I love them. I'll text them just randomly, I love you, because I tell all my kids I love them, because I didn't feel that growing up. So there's things that
Whoa, hello?
I got some amazing kids, so I think I did something right. I feel like I did something right with those kids. They're all exactly what I would picture if I wanted to have. If I thought of it in high school, what kind of kids would I have? They're exactly what I thought my kids would be, like 100% exactly. It's crazy. My 14-year-old's like this emo chick, right? And she's all dyes her hair, and we all listen to the same music. Me and her listen to the same music. June is super creative. My son is just like he's got long hair and listens to he's all about music. Like he's just me when I was in high school. My 12-year-old has got my like kind of feistiness and outgoingness, and like she's just amazing. These kids are just exactly what I wanted to have as kids. I can't ask for anything more with them. I love them so much. Just
perfect combos of what you wanted between the two.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly. It's amazing. But I had to take things that I didn't like and implement things that I wish I had in my parenting. So I think I've done a decent job.
Dude, I totally feel you on that, because I'll be honest with you. When my daughter was being born, I was like, you know what? I kind of don't want her to have your freckles and your red hair. I'm shooting for like a Hispanic with freckles and red hair is going to be fucking like an albino in Africa, Yeah. They were like, what breed is this? It's like, here's the part of the lizard people that they were talking about. So I get that, dude. So I totally feel you on that. My daughter's exactly like me. she has
Yeah.
the right amount of her mother and me where it's like, okay, it's tolerable and I see where she's coming from on both sides and it scares me. It scares me for the future for these people.
Yeah, 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 that's hilarious. Dude. Yeah, my kids have they're they're exactly like their mom and exactly like me at the same time. It's funny because like um, with my younger kids, they my daughter Kayla, who's 14, she has my personality, but she looks like her mom. Her mom is Hispanic, and so she looks like her mom. And then Zoe, my youngest, she has her mom's personality, but she's like blonde hair, lighter brown eyes. She looks like a white girl, and but she's got her mom's personality. So it's funny they got a good mix of both of us. But they're amazing kids. I love them to death.
You know what's I think it's also key to what actually I think sets the foundation of kind of, I guess, judging a good parent right off the bat is the names they choose for their children. And you chose such great names for your kids. You had a lot of opportunities to do it and you had nothing but bangers. Good names, dude.
Yeah.
First off, because there's some people that come out with names and I'm just like, what the fuck are you going to do to this kid in school? Like, did you not get bullied in school? It still exists. It still exists.
It does. It does.
And it's
my
worse
first
now.
one had to be after my grandma. My grandma was the most influential person in my life. So that one was easy. But the other ones, yeah, they were just ones we wanted to have good names for the kids. So they are bangers.
So you had said something previously about like how your dad was like, get this done or I'm gonna fuck you up. But, I do want to let everybody know that you love your dad very much. You and your brother show and have show that you guys love your dad wholeheartedly. So I don't want anybody get it twisted. This guy's like fucking hates his dad and shit. Like how I don't like my parents. This guy is the complete opposite.
Oh no. My dad had some rough patches. I mean, he was addicted to meth for a while, and Lake LA, what are you gonna do? But it
was big out in Lake LA. So sorry, I hate to cut you off, but most people that are listening to this know what we're talking about. But people that are like, friends with us that are listening to this first time and that have nothing to do with AV, meth was really big out in Lake LA. It was like pivotal out there.
Yeah, he got caught into like doing it, selling it, cooking it at one time, and there was just a rough patch in there where we were kind of like all. I don't even know if my brother and sister really knew much about it because I was living with them at the time, and that was a rough patch where I had to go through a lot of shit that I saw. Me and Tommy, the other member of What For, me and Tommy witnessed a lot of bullshit. But then, after a while, probably the last 15 years of his life, like he would give us anything we wanted. If we had a car that would break down, he was there. Sometimes I was going through a rough patch where I was going to school, but I wasn't really working a lot. He would just give me $20 randomly. He'd say, "Hey, go buy some beer." He would do whatever we needed. He was always there, and he was a great dad. And growing up, what I was basically talking about growing up is that he put work ethic into us, like at a young age. Like he would take us out. He was doing yard work. We had to be out there doing it with him, and he taught me that, hey, you always got to be the hardest working person in the room, because if you're not, someone's going to take that shit from you. And I got my work ethic from my dad from a young age, from 5-6 years old, out there doing shit, right? Like he was always making me and my brother do shit, and we loved him. Like he would do anything for his kids, anything. And it was super devastating when he passed. It was so surprising. Like he got cancer just like that, and then 2 months later he was gone, and I was just like, it was devastating because he was our Superman. Superman's not supposed to die. So but yeah, no, my dad was an amazing person. So yeah, I didn't mean like, oh, fuck that guy. Like, I would tell him all the time, hey, fuck you, dude. But I'm my dad. I'm my dad. I am exactly like he was. I tell stories, and my dad would sit there for hours and talk about stories of his life. And he was an amazing person. So yeah, I love my dad to death. I am who I am because of that guy.
It's funny you bring up stories, dude. Like you started your podcast in late 2022, and from what I've been listening to like your latest few, you started off with like a lot of great, life stories, and now you've incorporated that together with some more educational things in like politics. Are you kind of gonna like transform that into more of like in your face what's going on in the world right now?
Yeah, a little bit of that, and I've been told that I need to tell more stories. A few people that listen have been saying, I love your stories from the past. So I'm going to do a little bit of both. I mean, it's from the mind of Dick, so it's whatever I think of, whatever comes into my mind, right? Whatever's off the dome. And sometimes I got to talk about this, sometimes I got to talk about that, and I do want to go back into more like telling stories, but I have so much shit on my mind about like politics, about just like the world's fucked up, and I just want to talk about it. So I will do a lot more of that. But I do need to tell more stories and make it more lighthearted, because sometimes I get into that kind of stuff and I offend
Fuck
people.
that, dude. Fuck
I'm
all
like,
that.
I don't want to offend. I don't want to offend too many people, but at the same time, I'm like, man, fuck people.
But that's
my
the
podcast. Listen to it.
I don't think what people I don't think people understand how hard it is to tell a story, to remember a story and break it down where it comes out so fluently. I don't remember stories. I remember little key pieces that someone tells me about, like, hey, you remember this? And they're like, here you go. Remember this little part? I'm like, all right, then I'll piece it all together. I have to write it all down and then put it on notes. People that tell good stories are like such a gem. So I think if you have the ability just to like have a topic and then you can incorporate everything, that's fantastic. But man, don't ever censor yourself. You fucking tell the greatest stories. And your last few about how you're kind of like putting politics. I'm like, dude, fucking, this is great. This is so awesome. And it's something that people need to hear too, that even if they get butthurt, it's like, hey, if you're listening to this, you're the same age as us. You're 40 plus, maybe in your mid 30s. If you don't like it, you can just not listen to it. It's simple as that, and it's not like we're trying to go out openly to offend people. I do. I'm sorry. I'm going to say that for myself. I go out. I don't give a fuck. I say whatever comes off comes out of my mouth unfiltered. I don't care, because that's just what this country allows us to do. I'm not going out and trying to promote hate, but I'm at a point right now in my life where I've experienced so much. I'm providing for my family like you're supposed to, and I have that right in this country to say what I want. So,
and the thing is, I'm not saying that I don't want to offend people. I just don't want to only offend people. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to just go out and like just nothing but fuck you people on my podcast. Like I want to tell stories, because that's what a lot of people have enjoyed that have been listening. And then I also want to have that in your face shit that's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, this is how I think, because I'm not left or right. I'm like, fuck the government. I'm punk rock, bro. Like, fuck them all. I mean, most punk rockers now are all like, fuck Republicans. I'm like, fuck everybody. That's what punk rock is. It's fuck the government, motherfuckers. Like, we're not like left or right. Like now, I see bands like NoFX like saying, oh, fuck Trump and all that stuff. Well, yeah, fuck Trump. But you know what? Also, fuck Biden. Like, fuck them all. Fuck all politicians. They're all crooks
together. They're all crooks.
It's one big club, and we're not in it. That's what George Carlin said. He said that in the fucking 70s. So it's like he got murdered for it. That's here nor there, but like, you can't say that and as a celebrity, or else they're gonna suicide you. So I'm just saying that I've been saying this since the early, I'd say 90s, saying this shit too. And then now it's finally coming out. So I'm going to say it on my podcast now. I'm going to definitely say it on my podcast. I'm going to say what I want, but I need to tell more stories, because I do remember all the stories. I remember a lot of stories from, our house parties and just, just being in the bands and stuff like that. Like I remember a lot of stuff. Somehow, I killed a lot of brain cells, but somehow I remember all this shit. I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember shit that happened in 1994, so. That's great. I mean, yeah. So I do need to tell more of those stories. So there's a lot of them, and that's when I first started the podcast. My girlfriend was telling me, like, you have all these stories. Like, why don't you like start a podcast? I was like, I don't want to do that shit for like 10 years. Like ever since I was on your podcast years ago, I was like, fuck, I want to do this too. Like I could do this, and it just never happened until a couple of years ago. Yeah, I think you starting one is probably one of the best decisions for like everybody that we know, just because of those stories and the fact that you did it and it came out great. I was like, man, this, like, he just jumped right into it. Like you jumped right into it. And I was like, fuck, this came out, better than I thought. Cause I'll be honest. I was like, people that they're like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast.
we're going to go and, it's airing this way. I'm like, all right. So I'll listen to it to support it. But when you came out with it, I'm like, all right, let's see what he does. It was fucking awesome, dude. I'm like, this is it. I'm like, we're good.
Thank you.
Follow instantly. So,
you.
and maybe it's, people are thinking it's a little biased opinion. It's not that. Like, I would tell you, like, hey, dude, like, your audio's this and that, like, which people tell me too, like, hey, this shit sucks. Like, you need Sean Miller, audio fucking genius, video genius. He'll tell me straight out when he came down here to do a podcast, fucked around with all my dials. He's like, do this, compress this, do that, blah, blah, blah. And ever since then, it's been like dialed in perfect.
Yeah,
so
I feel like I need that too, but I look at it like this, like my podcast is a punk rock podcast. So it's like, just like my music, it's like, it's not going to be perfect. It's just going to be there. I want it to sound good. I want it to sound as good as possible, but if it's not perfect, I'm going to be like, hey, dude, it's fucking punk rock. I don't care. That's how I've always done things when it comes to like my creative projects. It's like, hey, it's cool. It is what it is.
I think that's
I'll paint and stuff too. It's like, hey, it looks good. All right, it's cool. It's punk rock.
Dude, getting right into like into music in general, dude. I think that's what excites me about more of like my friends doing music than anything that's coming out right now. It's like, damn, this is what they are creating at this point in time. And I think when I heard What For and how you did it, I was like fucking mind blown. Like, are you serious? This is how he did it by himself? Like, really?
Yeah.
Which if you can break down, you had a 4-track, right? A cassette or okay. So if you can kind of break down what we used to go to, because people now, like, you can record anything off your phone. You can record anything through your computer. It is simple as pie, but let's just break down how, because I'll break down like how shitty I was. And I'm going to tell you like just the advancement, what he had. Me and Eduardo would put 2 boom boxes together and record like that.
Yeah.
So
that's how I started.
Okay. And then explain to them what a 4-track was.
Well, the 4-track has, because the tape, so basically an old cassette tape has 4 tracks on it. 2 going one way, 2 going the other way. That's why you can actually listen in stereo and listen to one side, and you flip it over, you're listening to the other side. So what a 4-track does is takes those 4 tracks and turns them into all going the same way. So you could record 4 different tracks. But what you can also do is you can record a couple tracks and bounce them onto one, and then record on the other tracks to where you have multi-tracks on. So it's able to do, I don't know the math because I'm not a mathematician, but you can do multiple fucking tracks on it. And that's what a 4-track recorder does. It has a little small mixer. I actually, I used the same Tascam 4-track that Sublime used on their, was it like Robin the Hood? All those old, like Brad Beast have the same exact one. I found that out later because in the notes on the CD it said it. And I was like, that's the fucking one I have. That's the one I used for that fucking What For tape, dude. The same one. So I thought that was cool as fuck. That's what I used, and I didn't know that when I bought it. My dad took me to Hollywood somewhere, and we went to a music store. I bought it, and that's what it does basically. And so what we did with the What For tape, me and Tommy,
what year is this?
Songs that we were playing, I want to say 96, 97.
Okay.
I wrote the songs probably like 95. I'd say we wrote the songs. I wrote most of it, and then Tommy had some input. He wrote the bass lines. We wrote the lyrics kind of together. But What For is basically just me and him. We had different drummers from time to time, but it was basically just me and him. And what we ended up doing was we got that 4-track, and we would play these songs so much, at parties or just practicing all the time. We knew them like the back of our hand. So what I would do is we'd have a couple mics, like maybe 3 mics hanging and like on the drums, because that's all we really had. We had 3 shitty mics. And so we plug them into the 4-track, and I would play the drums just by myself with the song in my head. No click, anything. Just I knew the drums so well, I just played the drum track. And when I got a good final take, we'd say, okay, there it is. So we'd bounce everything down to the first track, and that would be our drum track. And then I would go and play guitar onto that drum track. So then the guitar would be there, and then Tommy would play his bass. And then we'd bounce everything down. We'd have a couple open tracks to do some vocals and maybe another guitar or a solo or something like that. So that's basically how we did it. Did that What For tape. And that is like the shittiest recording, but we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We were like 16 years old, 17 years old. Like, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. It was like, we wanted to put some music out, and that was how we did it.
Dude, this may sound so terrible, so please do not take offense at this, okay? And I don't know if this is going to sound bad. This is what just comes out of my mouth, but listening to the, like, being like kind of a punker back in the day, I was more like pop punk. You guys were more punk rock than I was, but listening to your album, I was like, the rawness of it, it's like, this is fucking, this is incredible. And then when I hear it, for some reason, I always have, like, I want to put like your music in the scene of American History X where they're going and celebrating Danny and they're like playing punk and shit. But I always hear your music behind it for some reason, because it was that same type of like old school punk rock that you didn't hear in the 90s at all, because things were changing so much. And I'm not correlating what for him to skinheads and shit like that, but just if you can listen to that energy and what that punk rock style was in American History X, because I know people aren't going to go out and go find what's the punk rock he's talking about. Just go to that particular scene and you'll get what type of energy these guys brought to kids like us in the AV. It was incredible. And then when you heard that, it's like, what the fuck? He did this?
Yeah. Well, we were heavily influenced by like the late 80s hardcore, Minor Threat. One of the bands that I listen to it now, and like my songwriting style at that time was totally mimicking the Gorilla Biscuits. I don't know if you've heard them, but they were one of my favorite like hardcore bands, and they're 80s band, 80s early 90s, and the way I wrote What For songs was almost identical to the way they wrote songs. And a lot of the bands at the time in the late 80s were doing this. And that's where I emulated that band, because I was like, this is the writing style that I want to use. So that was what it was. It's more like 80s hardcore stuff. That's where we got our influence. That's what we were listening to. So that's what we wanted to play. We just wanted to play fast and loud. And for me, I always wanted to be like a frontman, watching shows when I was in high school. I just wanted to be that guy up front. And my biggest problem was that I sucked at playing and singing. Like my brain couldn't multitask. So when we played shows, it was like I sucked so bad. I'd fuck up all the time and play. I'd hear it. I'd be like, nobody else could hear it because it was punk rock. But Tommy would look at me and go, "Hey, you fucked that up." Yeah, I did. Yeah, sure did. But okay, let's go. And I always wanted to be like that guy up front singing, and we were able to actually do it, and it was fucking amazing, and that's what we were playing at the time, was fucking just fast fucking punk rock.
And it's crazy that punk rock, like, you in the culture, you don't think about, this is going to be my career forever, I'm going to make millions of dollars. This is just something that is like a hobby that we never want to go away,
No, yeah, exactly. It was just something I wanted to play in front of like people. I didn't want to play in front of millions. I wanted to play in front of hundreds. I just wanted to play in front of people. It was
that we're going to appreciate it.
Passion, my dream. Yeah. And I never thought about like, oh, I want to be famous. I just wanted to fucking play music, and just seeing, like, going to my first like concert, my first punk show, I think it was like 14, and seeing my first punk show, and I was just like, holy shit. And then I went to a couple shows in the AV hardcore scene. I was friends back then with Jojo Ackerman, the tattoo artist, and he was in like hardcore in the AV punk scene, the AV hardcore scene. Like, he was in Terminal Holocaust. I'm sure you know all about that.
Yeah.
And so I went to a couple shows then when I was probably like 14, 15, and I was like, this is what I want to do. Because that's exactly what they were playing. That's where Jojo was my big influence in playing punk rock. I was into like, 91-ish, 92-ish. I was into like Nirvana, right? And like that was what I liked, because I didn't know anything else. Punk rock to me was like just a mohawk. I didn't know what it was. And then I got my first guitar lessons from Jojo, and he was friends with my dad. It was crazy because when he was a tattoo apprentice, he was friends with my dad. He worked for my dad. My dad was his boss, and they became friends. So my dad was like, "Hey, I know this guy. He plays guitar. He'll teach you." So that's how I met Jojo. And he taught me my first, he gave me my first guitar lessons, and I was wearing a Nirvana shirt, and he's like, "Oh, you like Nirvana?" I said, "Yeah, I love Nirvana." And he's like, "Well, here, listen to this stuff. This is punk rock." He gave me a couple tapes, and they were just mixtapes. Dude, life was changed forever. That's where I got into the punk, and that's what he gave me, was shit like Youth of Today and like Bad Religion and these bands. I was just like, holy shit, what is this? And that was life changing for me. That was it right there. So
see, kids, see how easy it is for you guys just to go on the internet and just look up what we're talking about. We had to be informed by. We had to be lucky to be informed by somebody on good music.
I have the internet to go look it up. When I heard about punk rock, I honestly heard about punk rock from Nirvana. Kurt Cobain used to talk about punk rock, and then you can talk about like what grunge is. I mean, it could be punk, could be rock, whatever it is, but he was talking about punk rock. So I was like, what is that? Like, I want to know what that is. And then when I started, when I met JoJo, it was like, I talked to him about that. He's like, this is punk rock. He basically said, this is punk rock. And I liked, heavier. I always felt like edgier, heavier music. Like even if I was listening to like rap, I wanted to listen to NWA, not LL Cool J. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the hardcore shit, right? And I mean, that's something most people don't know about me, is that like that was my first love, is like hip hop, like still to this day. Like that was like 80s, 90s rap. Really 90s like rap. That was my first love. But I always wanted the edgier shit. I didn't want, and then, when I heard rock music, I heard like Metallica, I was like, that's heavier, that's good. I heard like Slayer, that's a little bit too much. It's not what I'm looking for.
That's a little beefed up.
I heard like, it's a little, like, okay, this isn't doing it for me. I like the heavier stuff, but I like guitars. And then I heard Nirvana, that was a little more what I wanted. And, but then hearing like real punk rock, that was it. My life changed. Like I knew this is what I wanted to do. And right there, like I had already been learning how to play guitar because of the fact that I liked, Nirvana and stuff like that. I asked my dad to give me a guitar, and he got me this shitty used like Stratocaster that was fucking terrible. But I played the shit out of that thing, because my dad told me, "You're okay, I'm not getting you anything nice because you tend to take on hobbies and never do them again. So here's something." And I played the shit out of that to my finger, literally till my fingers bled. And my dad saw that I was jamming on it every day, and I want to say after like 6 months, we went to like Sam Ash in Hollywood or something like that. I think that's what it was. And he blew like $500, got me a new guitar, got me a nice amp, got me all sorts of shit. And from then on, it was just like, I was done. I was playing guitar, and then I heard punk rock. I was like, I'm going to play punk rock. That's what I want to do. And it's like, that's when you think before, and this is cool. But then when you hear one thing, you're like, that's what I want to do. That's exactly what I want to do. And that's where, just being in bands and playing punk rock, that's where it all came from.
You've kept the same style pretty much the entire time in all the bands you've been in, pretty much. Like it's like if it's changed up to a little bit of metal, you heard the punk rock still in there with faster drum beats and shit. So like you didn't stir away from it too much.
No, when I was in the band with Johnny and Kyle Doro and Danny Stella, we were in that band. We were playing more like hardcore stuff, and which is fine. It was more like the Hatebreed style or stuff like that. And that's what we wanted to play, but it was still punk rock, right? And all my riffs, because I wrote all the riffs for that band, and all the riffs were fucking punk rock riffs, and Johnny loved playing fast. So it was like, okay. And Kyle was into that stuff too. Danny was kind of like more into like metal, and he was a rapper when I first met him, but he started getting into like the heavier stuff, and they wanted to go heavier and heavier and darker and darker. And I was like, dude, I'm a punk rocker. Like this is what I do, and so we kind of avoided a lot of that. Like,
their eyeliner started getting thicker. You're just like, hey man, my jeans are still blue, dude.
I'm like, dude, I want to play more like, more Pennywise and not fucking all death metal shit. So it kind of got to the point at the end where I was just like, so what ended up happening was we got Stubby in the band. We got Matt in the band, and he was into like metal, and he was, the one-armed bandit playing fucking way better than me. And
that was a trip, like, seeing that for the first time. I'm like, are you
yeah,
fucking kidding me?
Yeah. And writing something more like newer songs, they weren't exactly what I was looking forward to do. And I was just like, okay, well, I got all these guys against me, and I can't play this stuff. I can't go away from the style that I play. Like, this is who I am. I can't do that. And after 4 or 5 years, I just had to say, okay, this is how it's going to be. I can't do this anymore. And those guys went on to play music like that. And they, Kyle's still fucking playing metal, so it's all what they wanted to do. It was just not me. And I'm not going to go against what I do. I've always been a punk rock strummer, I can't play a solo to save my life. I play fucking power chords all day long, right? And they wanted to get into all this intricate stuff. The thing that was the clincher for me was when we were actually recording like a demo, and they put all these like samples in of like this disgusting creatures and all this stupid shit. And I was like, what's that? And then I was like, wait, what the fuck's going on here? And then when I played guitar over, so Johnny had played drums and there's bass, and I played my guitar over it. One of the songs we've been playing for 5 years. And then I left, I had to do some stuff, and then I came back and listened to it, and all I heard was Matt's guitar on it. And I was like, where's my guitar? Well, it's there. I was like, I don't hear it. I wrote this fucking song. I wrote everything about this fucking song except for the lyrics. Like, where's my guitar? I wrote this shit. And they were like, oh, it's there, dude. I was like, I don't fucking hear it. I only hear his guitar. Like, and we got in a little argument about that. I had been going through a lot of pressure with my first wife about like, you're in this band, you're 2-3 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week, you're going and playing the band, and you're not here, and you're not making money. Like, you're spending money that we don't have. You're making like $6 an hour at Walmart. Like, why are you fucking in this band? Like, you need to fucking quit. And I was like, pressure from her, and then like the band not going in the direction I wanted it to go, I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I got extremely drunk one day and told them all to fuck off, and then that was the rest is history. Luckily, I love all those guys. They're still my friends, but that's how it had to end, because I was going to be true to myself. I was going to play the music I wanted to play. And unfortunately, I've never been in a band since then, but, life had to happen. Like I said, earlier, life had to happen. I had kids that had to be taken care of. So
they pulled a fucking Jason Newsted on you, dude, and put in like just
kinda. Yeah.
And what I'm referring to, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, is the Injustice for All album, where there's apparently no bass in it at all.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't hear any of it. Any of the songs that I had recorded, I was like, can we lift my guitar up? Like, it should be not in the forefront, but I did write all these songs. Like, what are we doing? Yeah, but like I said, I forgave those guys. They forgave me for being an asshole, but they all understood. I mean, even when Johnny was on my podcast, we talked about it a little bit, and he's like, dude, that's like, that's gone, dude. That's nothing. Like, you had to grow up faster than a lot of us did, and the pressure from that, plus like the band, not being where we wanted it to be. Like, he's like, I totally get it. And it didn't hurt them. They went on and formed another band without me. It was just the same guys without me, and I can't remember the name of it, but they were fucking badass. And they played a lot of shows. They were around for a few years, so they kept playing. They kept going. Everything was good. Kyle's been in multiple bands since then. Like, I'm proud of that guy. Like, when I hear his shit right now, I'm like, fuck, dude, he's so fucking good. I'm like, that's my boy right there. That dude is fucking awesome. I mean, in his 40s, dude, and still doing it, bro. Fuck yeah, dude.
I put my catalog of music on shuffle, and then I'll go through all this different type of music, and then place like my musician friends in it. I'm like, I'm pretty much setting up the song list of like the artists I want to incorporate my musician friends to these songs. So yesterday I was listening to like a post-hardcore band from like 2007. I'm like, dude, I want to do music like this in the One and Done, and Kyle would be the best at singing with this.
Oh, yeah.
Then I started listening to Lagwagon, May 16th, and I'm like, dude, I would love to write a fucking song with Richard like this. And I think that's this album is going to be so monumental to me. I'm like, this is what I want. I want people at what the best they do in that particular genre, and just make a whole album of it. So people are like, oh shit.
Yeah, you need to fucking get on that, bro.
I know, I'm a piece of shit. I know.
You're not a piece of shit. You're not a piece of shit. You just need to fucking get on that, dude. Like, you need to just fucking do it. Just take 15 minutes a day. When you get home from work, whatever you have the best before you go to bed, take 15 minutes a day and just fucking write songs and say, that's it. Okay, time yourself for 15 minutes. I started doing that, and like, honestly, that last song, the song I just released the other day, that took me like 3 years to finish. But I finished most of it in the last like 3 months, because I just said, fuck it, I have to do this. I'm doing this now. And so I'd take 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. On my days off, I'd say, okay, I'm going to spend a couple hours messing with these songs. And I would get bored with it and go away from it. And I go work on another song, or I go do something else. And you got to fucking just take that time. You got to force yourself to do it. And not like it's forcing, because it's something you love doing, but if you just sit and think about it all the time, you're just going to sit and think about it. You're never going to actually do it. So have to fucking just get on it. Just fucking do it.
I
Fucking
like
do it.
I I like how I like the 15 minutes. You know, if it's 15 minutes a day, I was just thinking about this too. God, this is like such a fucking a full circle podcast for me right now because everything you're saying is like shit, dude. I just had this, epiphany, a few days ago. And it's like I was telling my wife, I just need to do like some sort of working out for 15, 20 minutes so I don't feel like a piece of shit. And if you tell someone like, hey, if you just walk for 15 minutes a day, it'll make you feel a whole lot better. Trust me, in like a month. Like, that's not really a big deal. But honestly, if you didn't do it, you would see such a huge difference, and honestly, the little things that you even talk about, you just want to feel accomplished. In 15 minutes of writing, I'm like, all right, this was it. Timer just went off. I'm good. I don't have to dedicate any more to this. On to the next project or do whatever you want afterwards.
Yeah. You know what I found when I started setting a timer? I said, okay, I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. I'm going to pull out the laptop. I'm going to start writing. And so, I set it up, start the timer. And then next thing you know, the timer would go off and I shut that shit off. And next thing I'm working on it for another hour. It's just that setting that timer, saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And setting that timer, it doesn't have to be 15 minutes. It has to be at least 15 minutes. So set that timer for 15 minutes. If you're in a groove, don't fucking cut that groove out. You gotta keep it
for
going.
Sure.
When you're in that fucking mental state, especially like with me, like I said in my podcast, I have like bad ADHD, and if I am in that fucking hyper focus, I have to keep it going, or else I'll lose it, and then I'll get bored and I'll say, "Fuck it, I'm done." So if I know that I have a timer and I have a goal to set for that timer, it's like, okay, I'll get started, and even if I really wrote half a riff or I structured one thing here and there. I did something like that. I say, hey, I got something accomplished today. Then I'm good. So that's what you have to do when it comes to like getting shit done. You gotta fucking just find a way to get yourself to do it. That's what I found was the best. Was like just setting a timer for 15 minutes and going.
You kind of have to be like your own hype man, in a sense.
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be because it won't get done. I sat around for years and years and years, and I've been able to record music for fucking so long. I have all the tools to do it. It's just have to have the motivation, and you have to kind of sometimes force yourself to have that motivation because you'll sit there forever and it'll be like, oh, what could have been, instead of saying, look at this piece of work I just put out. And putting out like a song like I just did the other day is like, it's a huge accomplishment mentally for me, because it's something I've been wanting to do for so long, and I'm finally actually starting to do it. And like I said, I have a couple more in the chamber ready to go. And when I finally finish what I'm accomplishing, what I'm setting out to accomplish, when I finally finish it, dude, the feeling is going to be like fucking being on drugs. You know what I mean? That is my drug, and that's what the feeling's going to be. And I don't care if 3 people listen to it. I know who the real ones are that are going to listen to it. And when I get a text from you saying, dude, this is fucking badass, that's what I need right there. That's the validation. It's just the real ones that know. You know what I mean? And I don't care. I'm doing it for myself, and I want to fucking just get something accomplished. And like I said earlier, I feel when I get something done, when I get something accomplished, that's how I feel like a man, I feel like a beast when I get shit like that done.
Dude, you just answered my question that I was about to ask. I was going to ask you, like, well, were you scared to release it? Was the song at, when you were finishing it up, you're like, this is it. I'm happy with this, or were you like, people are going to be happy with this? Because I think that's where I'm at right now.
I don't care. So I used to care. I used to really care about that kind of stuff, but now I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like I know that it's not the best recording. I know that it's not like professionally done. I'm not a fucking professional. I'm sitting here with a laptop in my bedroom, and I had to tell myself, because that's why it sat for so long. Because I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna like it. I can't get it to sound right. And that's just like doubting yourself too much. And honestly, who the fuck cares? I just basically what I did with that was like, the song was complete. I listened to it over and over again. I went and listened to it in my car. I went and listened to my girlfriend's car. I was like, well, there's some things I had to tweak, a couple things on it. But I was like, you know what? It's never going to be fucking perfect. And if people start saying, oh yeah, well, this guitars are too high, and this is, the snares a little loud. Like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm not pro. I just fucking put out something that I thought sounded great. And I was having trouble writing my own music. I mean, that is my own music, but I'm saying like new stuff. Like, so I said the only way I could really get out of this rut is to fucking re-record the old songs, because I already know how those go, and I don't have the pressure of like trying to structure it the right way and make this chord change sound right. And I already wrote those songs, so it's getting me to that step of recording. I mean, actually picking up my guitar and getting everything into the machine so that I could make it sound good. And that's where, like, now I started writing new stuff, and I'm just like, wow, this shit's just flowing out of me now, because the spark has been lit, right? And it all started with those songs that I already wrote fucking 30 years ago. Fuck, 30 years ago.
That's crazy, dude. Man, but you listen to it, you're like, fuck, I wrote good shit.
Yeah.
Like, I had something going. Like, it
was fucking good.
I have to ask before I get into this next subject with music. Where did the song Wimpy? Where did you get the inspiration to write that song and the lyrics to that shit? It's like, where the fuck? It's my favorite song, dude. It truly is, man.
I know.
Because honestly, the bass line is the catchiest shit. Like, if you were into ska and punk back in the day, if you heard a catchy bass riff, like Here in My Bedroom by Goldfinger, everybody knows that song right off the bat just because of that intro, that bass line.
Yeah.
So Wimpy just hit me a different way, dude.
Yeah. So the bass line was written, I had a kind of a guitar lick that I was fucking around, me and Tommy were messing around, and we're just jamming one day, and we're trying to write like a ska song, and it was more like we were listening to NoFX, and they had a couple like funny ska songs. So we were like, we got to do that. We got to do a funny ska song, because I was really into like Operation Ivy and stuff like that. And I started getting more into ska at that time. And so me and Tommy were joking around. We said, let's just write a fucking funny ska riff, dude. Let's try something. And so what we ended up doing was, I was doing it on guitar, and Tommy started playing it on the bass, and then he came up with this fucking badass bass line based off like what I was playing. I was like, that's it, bro. That's it. We started playing some guitar on it, and we just jammed on it. And then I came up with kind of the changes on it. And I think the inspiration for like how that song was structured was from kind of like Kill All the White Man from NoFX, how it's like slow in the beginning a little bit. It's not really ska, it's more like reggae, but
right.
And then it goes fast at the end. It was kind of like that. I kind of wanted to just...
Oh no. No.
There. And
sorry,
then
I keep losing
you.
you.
Wrote a song. Oh, you're losing me?
I lost you for a second. I'm like, no. He's just getting to the good part. Okay, we're good.
So we just came up with that idea, and I had an idea for a long time about writing, because Wimpy and Popeye was just kind of like the funniest fucking character. And me and Tommy used to joke about it. That dude's a fucking white trash as fuck, dude. He's like, I never has no money, and always pays like, oh, I'll pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today, and then he never has money, right? And he's always sitting at the bar. Like, that dude's fucking white trash. And so we thought about an idea. It's like, okay, let's write a song about it. And that's how it came about. As simple as that. It's like we wanted to write a song about Wimpy, and we wanted to write a ska song, so we put the two together, and I wrote the lyrics. And the funniest part of that song is when we were recording the part where he's like, we kicked his big fat ass. And at the end, if you notice, there's a group of all of us going, sideways!
Yeah.
We're like, we stuck the can up his ass, sideways! And that was all of us together, and we just said, sideways! And we just could not stop laughing after we recorded it. And we had to like kind of cut that out of the recording because we were laughing so hard. It just kind of all came to us. And we're like, we have to record it. We have to say it on that track.
That's fucking so great,
man. We
were
just trying to be fucking funny, dude. We were just trying to be stupid and funny. We had like a lot of influences. Like I said, NoFX was a big influence in how they were kind of funny and like political at times. And so that was our try at being kind of funny.
That's everything.
It became a great song.
Dude, it is. It's still, I mean, that must have been, the first time I heard it, it must have been 30 years ago. And it's still in my head till this day. I can still remember the recording, dude, the sideways and everything. It's just, so great, dude. So, thank you for that memory that's still embedded in my mind. Out of all the shit that probably I should have remembered, from everything from like my family, my kid, everything, that will always be there no matter what. And you're a part of that.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
I have been going through like a rabbit hole of like music from like my band, like my serious band days in the early 2000s with my metal group, to like what inspired me from 89 to, you know, mid 90s and shit like that. Where did you honestly, I feel we had stages of really great music and festivals. Do you think that, or can you agree or disagree with this statement that there are like a handful of really great artists in each genre right now compared to how I feel that we were just bombarded with such great artists that we didn't appreciate back from the 90s to like maybe the early 2000s?
Yeah, I agree with you. Music today doesn't do anything for me. Like there's only a few bands that I really dig, that are newer, but some of them aren't even like the newer bands within the last 10 years. Like I can't stand really any of them. My daughter, my 14-year-old, listens to a lot of the newer stuff and she loves it. And I'm just some of it. This is crap. My favorite genre is anything in the 90s. It's just anything. I don't care what it was, whether it was metal, punk, whether it was R&B. Like 90s R&B is the shit, bro. Like that's where anything now is horrible. 90s R&B is where it's at. 90s fucking hip hop, Dre, fucking Eminem, shit like that. Like come on, dude. Like anything in the 90s is fucking the shit. That's my genre. That's all I really listen to anymore. You know, whether it's punk, ska punk, like all that shit in the 90s, I still love it all. There's only a handful of bands that like now I listen to them, like, you know, they're okay. You know, some of them are like, one of the bands I really love right now is the Interrupters. They're fucking the shit. They're like really good. Huh. That's a newer band. They've only been around for like maybe 10 years, if that. I think they're maybe 10 years, not even 10 years, 8 years they've been around. And they're fucking amazing. But there's other bands that I'm like, I hear them now, I'm like, oh, this new shit's just horrible. You know, it's not good. It's just copying what bands did in the 90s where the music was great. And don't get me wrong, I love 80s music, I love 70s music, but my favorite genre is all 90s, maybe early 2000s, because, you know, bands like My Chemical Romance were in the early 2000s. I fucking love My Chemical Romance, always have. Just little bands like that came out, you know, in the early 2000s, that emo pop punk phase. Those bands are still good.
Did you just hear they had an emo fest not too long ago?
Which one?
It was on a cruise.
It was on a cruise?
Yeah, it had like Seosin. Who else did they have? Like Mayday, I believe.
Yeah.
That was like kind of like the genre I kind of like the early 2000s to probably like maybe 2009, 2010. There were some kind of good albums in between that time. But growing up being a huge Prince fan and like literally idolizing that man, then when Green Day's Dookie came out, I was like, I'm fucking changed forever. So
yeah. No, same here. Yeah, that was a huge one. Like I was already into like a lot of punk rock, and I heard Green Day. I was just like, man, you guys are fucking. That was basically, I didn't know what pop punk was. They were like to me, they were the first pop punk band. Yeah. I don't know what it was, but I was like, this is punk, but this is like, it's not, but it is. You know, I was like, man, I like this a lot. This is fucking. I had a shirt in high school that was, nobody knew what it was, and I think I got in trouble for it because it said Dookie, or it said Green Day on the front, and it had just a turd with flies around it. Mm-hmm. It was like a green shirt, and I found it. They only had one left at Hot Topic, and it was like, I was like, I want this. I used to wear that to school, and nobody knew what the fuck it was, you know. And so that, seriously, same here. Like that album really changed my life. I mean, I learned every song off that album on guitar and drums. I mean, I sat there and played with speakers, like big giant house speakers behind me, learning to play drums to that album, which was pretty difficult. Well, learning to play drums fast is basically what I was doing with that album, was trying to learn punk rock drums.
Well, for people out there, if you all knew Green Day's Dookie album, I mean, everything from Dookie and on, obviously they just started getting bigger and bigger. But for me, the first 4 albums were like the most pivotal albums in like pop punk, because they never changed. Oh yeah. But like you said, playing faster, Trey Cool was the drummer for that Dookie album, and man, you heard it was like night and day between the old drummer and the new drummer. So
definitely. definitely.
But they
and I
never.
love those early albums, but like, no, it was changed when Trey took over.
I was watching their '94 Woodstock performance and hearing their old like Slappy Hour and Kerplunk albums, being played on a stage. I'm like, dude, it's so fucking good. It's such a different, like, all the songs he's written, just manipulating power chords till to this day. Like when I hear Basket Case, I'm like, why is he going all over the fucking place with this, with these power chords?
Yeah.
And it sounds so good.
Yeah. But it sounded so good. And I loved his, just his persona on stage. I kind of mimicked that in a way too, just how he would play on stage. Like I saw them so many times when I was younger, like before they were huge, before Dookie ever came out, I saw them a couple times and I just didn't know. I was like, these guys are good. And then I heard like Dookie, I was like, this is fucking insane. This is exactly what I want. But watching him like, just perform was crazy. Like that's what I wanted to do. That's how I wanted to be on stage. Not the same kind of music. I didn't want to play that more poppy punk, but I wanted to have that persona on stage. So, I mean, Green Day was definitely like life changing.
Maybe you and I wouldn't have been friends if I would have went up to you and said, dude, have you heard Green Day? Dude, that guy's guitar, that's totally punk rock. You probably be like, you're a fucking piece of shit. Get away from me, young kid.
I don't know. Maybe.
Stickers don't make you punk rock, dick.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Exactly. Ask Lyle Riddle. I told him, you can't fucking be here. You're only 12.
Fuck, dude. Did he prove us wrong? Didn't he? That guy prove us wrong?
Fuck, dude.
Dude, he lived across.
I kicked him out of what for, dude?
Dude, I'm telling you right now, like because he lived across the street from me, and he always come across the street when like my little small forming of bands are playing music here and there with Eduardo, and my next door neighbor to me was a guitar player. He would always come over and want to play drums and shit. And when I heard him playing the bells, I was like, fucking douchebag. Enjoy that. But I'll tell you right now, that guy progressed from the bells to drums, and his fucking hands are so clean and fast. It blows me away that he even acknowledges us as like big brothers in the music world. It blows me away.
I know. As good as he's doing, the shit he's doing right now, it's like, and he tells me all the time. He was actually here a few months ago. We were just sitting there talking for hours, and it was like, he put so much on me, like, hey, you were such a big influence on me, and like I looked up to you so much. I'm like, bro, I'm looking up to you right now. Like the shit that you've done, the shit you're doing right now. It's like I'm looking up to you. Like I'm like in awe of the shit that you do right now. And it's weird for him to say stuff like that. It's always been weird for me for like when you guys say stuff like that. So it's like I was just a punk rock kid. I just want to play fucking music. But to have him do all the shit he's doing, it's like fuck. Like he tried out for what for? He told me. I was the most nervous in my life. He's like, I was more nervous then when I was trying out in front of Eric from Sublime. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, yeah, I remember being more nervous to try out for.
Yeah, dude.
And I was like, you fucking kidding me, dude? Like,
it's weird. I felt the same way when I was auditioning for the band that I was in, Guilt by Association, because I knew the guys. I knew the guitar player that left, and that they were auditioning me to replace him with, and I knew the group, and we were like all friends. When I went into that audition, I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking terrified. There was nothing, no interview, no job, no anything else that bothered me as much as that rehearsal or, that gig. It was fucking terrifying because you're seeing people that you admire in a sense, more of like different scales that you can't even comprehend what it even means, but it's there.
Right.
So, I've never got one of those compliments before, so congratulations on multiple ones, you piece of shit.
Well, I will give you one. Like you're the reason I wanted to do a podcast because I've always listened to your podcast. So there you go. I mean, you're the reason.
I appreciate that, dude. I love you, bud.
Yeah, I love you too, man. Like I wanted to do it back then. Like I said, when I was on yours, I want to say it was probably 2015, something like that. And I love doing it so much. I was like, man, I want to do this, and it just never happened. But it's always been like because you were doing it. My boy was doing a podcast and it was fucking good. And I'm like, fuck, I want to do this too. I really want to do a podcast. And it's, it just happened 2 years ago, but it's always been like your influence on your podcast. And I've always listened to it. It's like, I want to do this, man. I want to do this too. So good job on that. Your podcast has always been great.
I appreciate it, man. I truly do. I know like when people hear, like you said, oh, you've been doing it for 10 years, but when you guys go on my list, it has like 30-something episodes. I've gone through like different audios, all this crazy shit that has been said on there. So I think a clean slate was the best route for me. And
Yeah,
to hear
yeah,
you
of
say
course.
it means a lot, dude. It truly means a lot.
Yeah. So come on, man. You are influencing people. I promise. I promise.
Well, hey, man. One last thing, dude. Obviously we talked about new music and stuff like that. When do you think music completely just like died out? Because honestly, dude, I kind of went back to like Ozfest festivals, the Vans Warp Tour, the 94 Woodstock. I didn't really like get into the 99 Woodstock because I think 94 had a lot of great, monumental artists on there. And I was watching Nine Inch Nails perform, and I'm not a Nine Inch Nails fan at all. But this intro, all right, so I'm only going to play a little bit of it. But could you imagine being in this crowd with no cell phones, completely engulfed in hearing this shit for the first time? This is fucking crazy, man. I don't like this group at all. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting goosebumps just hearing this, dude. And I don't even know what this song is, man. So,
Yeah.
dude, there was like, you had Metallica on that card. You had fucking the Cranberries. Man, I don't think we appreciated what we had, dude. I truly don't.
No. We had great music, and it's funny that you played like I think right around '94. I actually saw Nine Inch Nails, and I was someone in that crowd, and so I feel that, dude. It was I had friends. I never really was into like that kind of music, but I had a few friends that were into like all the industrial shit, like they were into like Ministry and just shit like that, and so I did go to a couple shows with them. I saw Ministry, and I saw Nine Inch Nails. I saw Marilyn Manson back then. I don't remember what year that was, but I went to those shows with that friends. But no, like I said, the '90s I think was the last great era of music. I mean, we had it good. We had a lot of different changes in music, a lot of different genre switches. I don't know how to describe it. Like you had grunge come out in the '90s, you had pop punk come out in the '90s, you had third wave of ska, which I still love. I don't care what anybody says. You had all that come out in the '90s, all that stuff. What really have we changed? Recently, not much. We're just lucky enough to be growing up in that time period, where music just was so different. We're so lucky.
We grew up in an age where we can hear the new music that's coming out now, trying to replicate the shit that we heard back in the 80s and 90s and understand the difference that, hey, this isn't new. This isn't fucking new music at all.
Every time I hear a band, I'm like, that sounds like this band. This band did it in, early 2000s. And every band I hear these days, So, like I said, there's only a few that I really like these days.
Well, I'm excited about your new music that's dropping, dude. I won't keep you any longer. I know we got up early to do this and you're on a different time frame. So I love you to death, bud. For everybody out there, please go follow his podcast I'm sure you're on all platforms as well, right?
Right now I'm on Apple Music and Spotify. I'm going to put it on SoundCloud as well. But right now that's all I want to do is those. Just Spotify is where I get, most people listening to it, but I also have it on Apple Music.
Awesome. I will have both those in the link. Please go follow From the Mind of Dick podcast. Buddy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to me, man. I love you to death. You've been a musical influence and a great friend most of all, dude. And I can't wait to do this again. Yeah, we definitely will, bro. I love you, bro. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you so much for doing this with me, bro. I appreciate you, bud. Until next time. And to you guys all out there, keep positive and stay classy. Peace.